In the rolling hills of rural Georgia, there stood a farm that had been in the Edwards family for generations. The farm was known far and wide for its crops of corn, cotton, and soybeans, all tended to by the Edwards family with pride and hard work. Among them was a young girl named Maya Edwards, a quiet yet determined teenager who had always admired the vast expanse of land that her father and grandfather had worked so tirelessly to cultivate. Maya's father, James Edwards, was a proud, hard-working farmer. He had built the farm from the ground up, working from dawn till dusk, often with his daughter by his side. Maya had grown up around machines, tractors, and the sounds of the land. It was a way of life for her, one that had instilled in her a sense of self-reliance and grit. She loved the land and the way it felt to be part of something much bigger than herself. One summer day, when the sun hung high in the sky, Maya found herself at the farm's machinery shed, working on a tractor that had broken down. It was a crucial piece of equipment, and without it, the farm would lose valuable time in harvesting. She was alone in the shed, the engine of the tractor open and exposed as she carefully examined it, her hands covered in grease and oil. The smell of metal and gasoline filled the air, and the sound of the creaking tractor was the only noise she could hear, aside from the rustling of the leaves in the nearby trees. It was then that a sleek, black SUV pulled up to the entrance of the farm. Maya didn't immediately recognize the vehicle, but it was clear that it wasn't one of her father's usual workers. Out of the car stepped a man in a sharp suit, his expensive shoes clicking against the gravel as he walked toward the shed. Maya wiped her hands on a rag and stood up, ready to greet whoever had arrived. The man approached her, his eyes scanning the machinery in the shed before settling on her. "You must be the one in charge here," he said, a hint of condescension in his voice. "I'm Richard Porter, CEO of Porter Industries. We've been having some issues with your equipment, and I was hoping you could help us out." Maya stood tall, her posture reflecting the confidence she had inherited from her father. "I'm Maya Edwards," she replied, her voice steady. "This is my family's farm, and I'm the one who takes care of machines. What's the issue?" Richard's eyes narrowed slightly as he looked over Maya's appearance. She was wearing worn jeans, a simple shirt, and her hair was tied back in a practical ponytail. He took a moment to judge her, his expression implying that he doubted she was capable of handling the machinery that he saw as complex and beyond the abilities of someone like her. "Well, I'm glad you're here," he said, his tone dismissive. "The machine has been malfunctioning for a while, and it's clear that you have a lot of work to do around here. It would be a shame if something went wrong with it." Maya felt a small spark of irritation rise inside her. Richard's tone was laced with an assumption that she couldn't possibly know anything about fixing the machine simply because she was a young woman and black. She had heard the comments before, especially from people who didn't understand the hard work and dedication it took to run a farm like hers. "Is that so?" Maya said, coolly crossing her arms. "Well, I'll take a look at it and see what I can do. It's not the first time I've had to fix a machine." She walked over to the tractor and began inspecting it. Richard watched her, with a mixture of skepticism and impatience, tapping his foot as she worked. He expected her to struggle, to ask for help, but Maya's focus remained sharp. She worked quickly, pulling out tools and removing parts with the precision of someone who had done this countless times before. For the next few minutes, Richard stood in silence, watching as Maya effortlessly maneuvered around the tractor, removing parts and tightening bolts. He was impressed, but reluctant to show it. "I have to admit, I didn't expect you to know what you were doing," he finally said, trying to hide the surprise in his voice. Maya glanced up at him, her face expressionless. "Just because I'm a young woman doesn't mean I can't fix a machine," she said, her voice firm. "I've been working on these machines for years. I know them better than anyone." Richard was taken aback by her confidence, but he wasn't ready to back down. "Well, we'll see if you can really fix it," he said, his tone still laced with doubt. "This machine is important to our business. If you fail, it could cost us a lot." Maya didn't respond immediately. Instead, she went back to work, her hands moving with expertise as she continued to dismantle and inspect the machine. Richard, still skeptical, looked at his watch. He was used to being in control, used to being the one who made decisions and called the shots. But as he watched Maya work, he began to wonder if perhaps she was more capable than he had given her credit for. After a few minutes, Maya stepped back and wiped her hands on her rag, her face still composed. "It's done," she said, turning to face Richard. "I've fixed the issue. You should be good to go now." Richard stared at her for a moment, unsure of what to say. His expectations had been completely overturned. He had come here expecting a young girl, ill-prepared and out of her depth, but instead, he had found someone who knew exactly what she was doing, someone who had the knowledge and skill to get the job done. He hesitated for a moment, then extended his hand toward her. "I have to admit, I'm impressed," he said, a genuine note of respect in his voice now. "I didn't think you had it in you." Maya took his hand, but she didn't smile. She had heard these words before, from people who thought they knew what was best for her, from people who assumed that her race or her gender meant she couldn't accomplish something. "You shouldn't have doubted me," she said simply. Richard nodded, realizing that Maya had proven something far more important than the machine itself. She had proven her strength, her ability, and her worth, something he had failed to see at first. He turned to leave, but before he did, Maya's words stopped him. "You don't know who my father is, do you?" she asked, her voice cold. Richard turned back to her, confused. "Your father?" he asked, his brow furrowing. Maya's eyes hardened. "My father is James Edwards," she said, her words heavy with pride. "The man who built this farm from nothing. The man who taught me everything I know about machines and hard work. He's the reason this farm is still standing, and he's the reason I can fix things like this. So next time, before you judge someone like me, remember who I am." Richard's face went pale as the realization hit him. He knew the name. James Edwards was a legend in the farming community, a man who had built his empire from the ground up. And here, standing in front of him, was his daughter, the girl he had underestimated. I'm sorry," Richard said, his voice barely a whisper. "I didn't know." Maya nodded, her gaze steady. "Now you do." As Richard left the farm, his mind raced. He had come here with preconceived notions, but Maya had shattered them in an instant. She wasn't just a farmer's daughter, she was a force to be reckoned with. And as he drove away, he couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, he had learned a valuable lesson that day. Never judge someone by the surface. There was always more beneath. And Maya Edwards had just proven that. If Maya's story inspired you, and you want to see more powerful tales of resilience and strength, make sure to follow us and stay tuned for more incredible stories. Don't forget to like, share, and comment your thoughts. Let's continue to uplift and empower one another. For more inspiring content, follow us on Expect Stories.